Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail has count them, two, not one, not three, but two new jobs being added to it. Technically three, we'll get to that. The first one we knew about for a while, Viper. It's a job that utilizes two swords and can combine them into a singular twin blade. Think Zidane from Final Fantasy IX. The animations seem to be rather tame in the initial trailer, but in stark contrast to that, with the latest Tokyo Fan Fest, it was revealed that the second job was Pictomancer, a job that Kryl will now pick up, which I'm a massive fan of because I think Kryl's an S-tier character. 2 thumbs up from me in that regard. Pictomancer is honestly one of the most unique and visually satisfying jobs I think they've added in quite a while. Rooted in the character of Realm from Final Fantasy VI, the Pictomancer utilizes paint and is like an artist's power fantasy to create machinations of their own mind, utilizing paint to deal damage in a variety of ways. And from what we have seen in the trailer and what they've talked about, they're able to create elements of their own, landscapes, and utilize those constructions and those creations to inflict damage to the opponent. They also seem to bring along a few kind of buffs or utility-esque abilities alongside their damaging spells, but it's important to note, and they made emphasis on this, that Pictomancer is not meant to be a support job. It is a damage dealer first and foremost that also happens to bring along a few things of utility. Now, I don't personally remember where I heard this from. I think it was during the actual presentation itself, because I checked the website and it wasn't there, but I distinctly remember hearing that Pictomancer has OGCDs, which is not a surprise, duh, every job does. But the way they described the OGCDs, in my opinion, was particularly of note, where they said that some of these paints take quite a while to actually complete, so you have some OGCDs in the meantime. To me, that could be a very stylized way to actually just say that the job has GCDs and OGCDs, and that's probably what they meant, but I think there's potential there that they actually meant to say that some of these paints will take longer than just, say, a typical GCD, or if they are just a GCD regular cast, you know what I mean, they take like a regular spell cast, not that they're actually on the GCD. Before anyone wants to go like, but actually on me with that one. It could be the case that Pictomancer plays in the style that while you're doing a hard cast, you can also utilize OGCDs during the cast bar. Not sure how that would work gameplay-wise, how it would feel and whatnot. We would need to wait and see, and I could just be talking out of my butt right now, for all we know. But I think it could be potentially extremely interesting. Now, we don't know a lot about how the Pictomancer, even the Viper, plays. We've seen 2 one-minute-esque trailers in regards to showing off a few spell animations or ability animations, but nothing else really beyond that. We don't know how complex these jobs are going to be, we don't know the number of buttons they're going to have. We can probably make some rough estimates, but we don't know anything specific, really. But a little while ago, around the time of the last Fan Fest or the one before, where they announced Viper, I made a video talking about job complexity in Final Fantasy XIV, and how I made the argument that I think it's important to have a variety of complex classes or jobs in Final Fantasy XIV, because some people just have different playstyles or different playstyle preferences than other people, myself included. Some people may prefer a more simple job like Reaper or Summoner, whereas some other people may actually really enjoy the style of gameplay that Black Mage has on offer, or more complicated jobs. It's just a matter of different strokes for different people. And you'll see why that saying is particularly relevant for Pictomancer. Get it? Like a stroke of paint? God, I slay me. Okay, terrible pun aside, I think on the whole it would be a disservice to the game if all the jobs start to trend towards being overly simplistic in playstyle. I don't want every job in the game to be complex, and I think there are places for a job like Summoner and Reaper. Hell, I enjoy Reaper. I play it all the time when I play the game. But I also like having jobs with different styles and different flavors. If I play any one thing for an extended period of time or any one style of, design, I get bored. I like having the ability, and I think that's one of Final Fantasy XIV's greatest strengths, is if I want a different flavor of gameplay or a different loop of the game, I can just swap to another job. That is one of the greatest strengths of the Final Fantasy XIV job system, and I think if all the jobs start to homogenize themselves in terms of their own complexity, then you alleviate or get rid of and undermine one of the things that made Final Fantasy XIV so special from a gameplay department, in my opinion. There's an argument to be had that there is a trade-off between having class diversity and uniqueness as well as balance, and that more homogenized jobs simply make the game easier to balance. And what do you personally prefer or prioritize, balancing or gameplay uniqueness? And I kind of fall somewhere in the middle in that regard. I don't think it has to be a black or white binary answer here. I feel if you stray to any one of these extremes, then you compromise the overall experience of the game. Final Fantasy XIV on the whole is pretty good when it comes to balancing. There's blips every now and then, but on the whole, they do a pretty good job of making sure that every job is at least somewhat viable. You'll never achieve perfect balancing one way or the other unless you want to make every job play the exact same, but that has issues in and of itself. And I think some of the allure of having a new job be implemented into the game is not just the aesthetics or the glamour that the job brings to the table, like with Pictomancer or Viper, but also they have the chance to bring a whole new style of play to the job ecosystem of Final Fantasy XIV. And that will naturally be more important to some people than others, but I think on the whole it is a rather important thing to have. And especially for a game that allows you to swap jobs on a moment-to-moment basis so long as you have them leveled, having jobs that play differently to one another is really important just to give players different options. Not everyone is going to like the exact same thing. For instance, the idea of Viper going from faster windows to slower windows depending upon if you're using your twin blade or two swords disconnected is rather appealing. You could make an argument that draw a parallel between the Enshroud window with Reaper, but it's all a matter of implementation and how Viper actually plays, because again, we don't know how these classes play. We just fundamentally don't. We can take guesses, we can make educated guesses or predictions, but at the end of the day, we have to wait until we have our hands on these jobs, or at least some other people that are chosen get their hands on these jobs and give me the information by me watching their videos so that I can talk about it. Yeah, that is the system we got right now, and we're sticking to it. When it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, I tend to side on being optimistic more often than not, unless they give me a reason to be pessimistic. That's generally my outlook when it comes to the video games industry on the whole, and I think Creative Business Unit 3 over the last few years or so, and especially since I started playing Final Fantasy XIV back in Stormblood, have rarely ever given me a reason to be pessimistic on the state of the game on the whole. In each expansion, I can generally find some jobs that I do fundamentally enjoy playing, and Endwalker was no different for me. But there have been trends lately to directions that I'm personally not that big on, and I would caution the game against going the direction of over-homogenization or over-simplification of class design. I used to play World of Warcraft for many years. I know, or at least have felt, the negative repercussions of a game pruning a lot of flavor abilities or abilities that you don't ordinarily utilize on the whole, and overly simplifying class design over years. And personally, I'm not a fan of that direction when it goes too far. Sometimes you have to take stuff away, I understand that, but sometimes noble intentions can go too far. I think when it comes to the aesthetics of Viper and Pictomancer, I think they are welcome additions to the game on the whole. And when I'm talking about job design and diversity, at least in terms of aesthetics, I think Viper and Pictomancer fit the game to a T. Pictomancer is rooted in Final Fantasy, from Final Fantasy VI, and I imagine it will be a wildly welcomed addition to the roster of jobs in the game. And there's already a lot of excitement for Pictomancer as a job. When it comes to Viper, we have not really seen all that many cooler, interesting animations in my opinion, and it seems to be rather toned down, at least compared to Reaper from Endwalker. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, we go back to the discussion we were just having about the importance of having job diversity. You want some jobs to be really flashy because that appeals to certain people, and I think it's okay to have jobs that are a little bit more toned down. I would personally prefer a few more flashy animations, and maybe they will come, and we just haven't seen them yet. But if they don't end up materializing, I don't think that's going to be a negative in regards to Viper. Because I think it's important to, yet again, have that diversity of playstyles, not only in terms of the actual mechanical feedback of you hitting your buttons, but also in terms of the looks, and, well, the looks of your glamour set, and also the looks of the actual animations. People like different things, and in a game like Final Fantasy XIV, we are already presenting the player with a bunch of options in terms of what to play. You might as well make use of having all those options and giving the player different playstyles and different looks on the whole. When it at least comes to aesthetics, Viper's way more up my alley. I generally play physical, melee classes in games, especially MMOs. Viper seems to have a hood and a coat and swords. That's essentially my aesthetic. Love that. It looks sweet. I would love to see it gain some abilities that say, Zidane has from Final Fantasy IX. I think that'd be really cool and a great throwback. I played Final Fantasy IX lately, and it became one of my favorite games of all time, as well as one of my favorite Final Fantasy games of all time. I love that game to death. And I would love, absolutely adore, to have some of those abilities that Zidane has on his person throughout Final Fantasy IX, because they're really cool. Like, say, Thievery, or some of those trance abilities he gets. There's a lot of potential there to appeal to me personally, and that may be selfish, but it is, yeah? But even if the job ends up not appealing to me, I hope it's different enough that it can appeal to a style of play people have been wanting for at least for a while, that they haven't had on offer in Final Fantasy XIV. Same thing when it comes to Pictomancer. Aesthetically, not really much a me thing, but it doesn't have to be. Not everything should be designed for my personal preference or my personal aesthetic. I think it's different enough and unique enough that it adds a welcome aesthetic to Final Fantasy XIV on the whole. And I'm glad that Pictomancer is being added to the game. I thought Green Mage was the more likely pick. I'm kind of glad that I'm wrong, especially since I think the idea of Trial being a Pictomancer and lugging around a giant paintbrush the size of her will be comical the entire time. And we also get her in duty support, so hey, 2 thumbs up for me. Now, when it comes to Beastmaster, I did mention there was the 3rd job being added to Dawntrail. And I put in quotation marks because it's the limited job, and limited jobs like Blue Mage are rather polarizing. I'm a big advocate for them. I like the idea of Beastmaster because I am a massive fan of job diversity and job uniqueness, and having a job identity. But the reality is, almost busted out into song there, in a game like Final Fantasy XIV, you have to bear in mind that spectrum that I said before. Job identity and balance. And if you go too far to job identity, then you screw the balance. But with the idea of unique jobs, you don't really have to care about that spectrum to begin with. You have to care about it somewhat, but you don't have to balance them at least in comparison to all the other jobs. You can have them be their own unique game mode by themselves and have unique gameplay offerings that just wouldn't be tenable with the other jobs. And I loved what they did with Blue Mage. It wasn't perfect, and it had some avenues that could absolutely improve, which is what I hope they do with Beastmaster. They did tease that it would have some kind of collection aspect to it, or they were at least like toying around with the idea. And the popular meme going around is that Beastmaster will be akin to Pokemon. And yeah, I'm down for that in a heartbeat. Going around the world, collecting all the different monsters and creatures we've encountered up to this point in time, taming them, maybe even naming them, utilizing them in combat, maybe they all have their own different unique abilities they bring to the table, stuff like that, doing groups with Blue Mages as well. That would be sweet. I would love that. And I think doubling down and expanding on the unique job idea, it won't be for everybody, but also Final Fantasy XIV largely succeeds because it has something that doesn't appeal to everybody, but to the people that it appeals to greatly. And I would rather them take a risk than just rest on their laurels and never try anything new. Having a strong, predictable formula has its own, strengths, but it has its own weaknesses, and I'm glad they're at least trying something new here with Beastmaster. You can argue that it's not new because it's another unique job, but I can't imagine it's going to work exactly the same as Blue Mage. Dawntrail in a lot of ways seems to be what all the previous expansions implemented into the game, one way or the other, but brought together all the fan favorites. A new Baja-esque zone, something that seems akin to Ishgard Restoration with Cosmic Exploration, which I'll be there day one. Deep Dungeon, variant dungeons, a new unique job. It looks good and it sounds good. We need to wait to see how it materializes in the game, obviously. And there's still a lot of question marks in the air, and this video is kind of covering one of those big question marks. What will the job design, idea, and philosophy for Dawntrail really end up being? Will it be an extension of what they were going for in Endwalker, or are they going to pivot in one way or the other? And I think we'll see a lot of that in regards to Pictomancer and Viper. I would also love to see some more diversity in the tanks. I think they need it more than anything else. But I would love it personally if Viper and Pictomancer have playstyles that are as unique as their aesthetic. It's interesting to think about, and I can't wait to get my hands on Viper and Pictomancer at some point in the future, as well as Beastmaster. You know I'll be there, sinking my teeth in. No, this is not a Thems Hrothgar joke. No, it's not. Oh god. And no, I pray to God that Hrothgar do not fall under the things you can master as a beast. I hope to God. Please no. Though the trolling in, like, raids would be hilarious if you could, like, control or force your buddy who plays as a Hrothgar to move into a fireball or something in a raid. That'd be kind of funny. They would never do it, obviously. But I mean, come on. You know the clips would be legendary. But with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And leave a comment down below with what job you are most excited to try in Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. Is it Pictomancer? Are you a Viper player? Maybe even a Beastmaster? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.